So we're going to talk about how to celebrate achievement and tailoring exercises to meet our unique needs, which we all have. So if all you will put your hands together and welcome Zachery Lipson for us, please. Go ahead, Zachery. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for that amazing introduction.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We
Of
appreciate
course.
that.
Just before we actually get going, I just wanted to start off by thanking you for putting this together and thanking everybody for taking time out of their weekend to being able to come on to our talk and hear my story and a little bit about adaptive fitness. So without further ado, we can begin. I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to be sharing. Again, my name is Zachery Lipson, and why I'm so thankful to be here and a part of this talk today is I've been in adaptive fitness for a couple of years now, but what I find so special here is that we have a common interest. We all, or most of us, might have hereditary spastic paraplegia, or at least know somebody in the family who has hereditary spastic paraplegia, and being able to connect with you guys and everybody on a disability level, but really more into the level of hereditary spastic paraplegia just means so much to me. And I understand everybody is different. We all have, or we might have a different type of hereditary spastic paraplegia. We might have been born with it, or we could have it could have started to present itself later in life. So I'm here to help guide whichever situation you're in. But in my case, having grown up with a disability, I've really come to understand the challenges that accompany. And really, as a result of from my experiences that I will be getting into, I began to specialize in adaptive personal training, or personal training for people with disabilities. And we call it adaptive personal training because for those of you who are in a wheelchair, if you say wanted to go to an exercise class, it might be very intimidating for you, especially if the majority of the people there are able-bodied and walking. So there are people like me who are here to help you every step of the way. And even if you did want to join an exercise class with able-bodied people, we are here to kind of help you through it. So just a little bit about my hereditary spastic paraplegia. I have SPG4. That is my gene deletion, and we've known this for essentially my entire life. My mom is on the call with us. Obviously, she's been through everything here. So we kind of knew I had a disability, or at least something, but we weren't sure what it was, because when I was younger, when I was a baby, I was tripping all the time, and my parents knew there was something wrong, but they weren't really sure what it was because I was always falling. My walking never looked right. My mom and dad said they were always very uncomfortable by the way they would watch me walk because it looked very unnatural to them. So after getting a lot of genetic testing done, we found out that I have hereditary spastic paraplegia. And through there, I went to a plethora of different doctors when I was younger, different specialists. And I definitely need to say this was scary for me growing up, because I was a child being surrounded by all of these doctors, and they were talking to me about my leg disorder and just the limits that were placed on my body. As I started to grow up, I found that this mindset served really no good for me. I know that there was nothing negative that was purposely done to me, but I found, at least from my personal experience, as a child, hearing I have a disability, in my mind, I kind of took it almost as I am a disability, if that makes sense. And it made me really stressed, really anxious. I had no confidence. I really didn't believe in myself because I didn't take person first language. My thought process throughout early life was kind of disability first. I let everything throughout my life kind of be controlled by my perspective of disability. If I wanted to exercise, I would always use the excuse of I can't squat. I have a leg disorder. And this really made me see how much of, I guess, when I was younger, this was more of the case, really lack of education and inclusion for people like me. Because growing up, I didn't see anybody on the main stage or mainstream media with a disability like mine. And it was really hard to not only go through life with the mindset of having a disability, but then I really didn't have anybody who I could connect with on a friendship level. Something as little as saying, "Oh, my legs hurt today," and somebody not using the excuse of, "Oh, it doesn't matter," or "You're lazy." Somebody just being able to say, "Oh, yeah, I know, right?" So this all kind of merges together with what I was talking about, where we were going to all these different specialists, and I kind of, in my child mindset and through my development, I kind of saw everything and my perspective of being at these specialists, of kind of being told what I can't do. I felt for me that it was more of a focus on my limitations rather than my accomplishments, rather than what I can do. So throughout life, this mindset really held place until I went to college. And in college, my mindset really started to change. I started to think differently. I started to be around new people. Everything just started to change for me. I really started to get into exercise. My major in college was health behavior science, and I minored in disability studies and psychology. So the mix of these three, with my major and the two minors, it really put into focus how important health is for us, whether it's mental health, physical health, spiritual health. It really put into focus what I need to do while having a disability for me. So during my sophomore year of college, I decided I wanted to get my personal training certification. Freshman and early sophomore year, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was kind of moving all over the place. And once I got my personal training certification, I really started to think about the lack of training or the lack of specialized training I had when I was a child and just going through life. So for the first 2 years I had my certification, or for the first about year and a half, I wasn't doing adaptive fitness. I was kind of just working with my friends in the school gym, because at this point I'm just a sophomore or going into my junior year of college. So I'm on personal training kind of on the side with my friends. And come my senior year, I had to take an internship with my major, health behavior science. But because I also had a minor of disability studies, I began to be connected with different disability organizations that were in Delaware. And one class, I found out about this organization that was called EPIC, or Endless Possibilities in the Community. And this is where I guess my love for adaptive fitness really took off, because at this point, I'm just a personal trainer with my friends, really trying to figure out where I want to go. And EPIC, or Endless Possibilities in the Community, started as a day program for people with developmental disabilities who were over the ages of 21 outside the school system. But they also had a program called EPIC Abilities, which we called a pilot program. And this was for people who had disabilities like ours. I had a couple people during my internship who had cerebral palsy, and they were in wheelchairs. So with them, they would be in the gym for about an hour and 15 minutes. And at the time, there was a girl named Rebecca. She was running the adaptive fitness program for Epic Abilities, and I was working under her and with her for our clients. So I did want to show you some of what I mean. So this was one of my clients who was in Delaware. So he has cerebral palsy, and he is in a power chair. He can't stand up. There's not a lot he can do without his chair. But as you can see, when we go to the gym, we maximize everything he can do. So I believe at this point, he has 520 pounds on this sled that he's pulling. Outside the gym, there's not too many experiences where we have the ability to feel this type of confidence, to feel this type of power. So this is really why I love what I do, because seeing the smile on everybody's faces. Here's another one. He went even higher. So now he's at 537 pounds pulling this on the sled. These were our favorite days. We would all be screaming in the gym, getting ready, and here he's again, maxing it again, going up to 550 pounds. There was so much that we did during the internship here that I learned about adaptive fitness. But what really helped for me personally too was one day I remember walking in and I said that my legs were feeling really tight. And my friend Tim over here, he said, "Oh man, I know, right?" And that was the first time I ever, senior year of college, had somebody agree with me in terms of the way I felt. And that's how I knew I found my people. That's how I knew I was where I needed to be, because I finally had the ability to relate. So these are some of the exercises we would do together. So as you can see, even though he's in a wheelchair, it doesn't stop us. It didn't stop him at all. He does anything. He does everything that he can, and he wants to push it. If there's something he can't do, and maybe we need to move on because of time, he will not stop until he gets it. And this is one of my favorite videos. This is him talking.
Getting back what I lost and gaining more. Always gaining more. And keep going to keep gaining. Hard work pays off, no days off.
Okay, Tim, if you can give somebody a piece of advice for they're sitting at home and wanting to exercise, but they don't really have the motivation to, what could you say to help them finally get to the gym?
Get your ass up. Because that's the only way you're going to change your mindset.
So that's just a little clip. This is all of the experience I had during my internship at Epic. This really solidified why, in my mind, I need to be in adaptive fitness, and just the love I have for it. It really showed me where I wanted to go in life. So a couple days before I needed to graduate college, the director at the YMCA comes up to me. So sorry, let me go back a little bit. Epic, or Endless Possibilities in the Community, rented space out of the YMCA. The YMCA has their own adaptive fitness program, and Epic is their own adaptive fitness program as well. So I'm all set to move back to New York. 4 days before I graduate, he comes up to me and asked if I would run their adaptive fitness program. Because up until this point, he's directing the YMCA, directing the entirety of the fitness portion, and also running this program. So at this point, he saw me loving what I do. My internship ended 3 weeks before college officially ended, and I was still going in every day, unpaid for, the only one at the YMCA. So he saw my drive. He saw that I really wanted to do this. So I changed all of my plans. I did not move back to New York. That same day or the next day, I found a house to rent for the year, and we were off. I accepted the job as the adaptive fitness coordinator. It really just started as an adaptive personal trainer, but through my time there, we started to include more other than just fitness. So it grew to the adaptive fitness coordinator. Here, everything exploded because I was still working with the 2 clients from the Epic side who I showed you in the video. But because I just took over a program, I then had about 15 clients I started with, all having their own disability. So I had clients who were stroke victims from the right and left portion of their brain. I had a client who had schizophrenia, traumatic brain injury, and even autism and Down syndrome. So I worked with, I mean, really a lot of the disabilities that I guess you'd see are common. CP, and I guess me too, knowing what kind of works for me, hereditary spastic paraplegia. So I do have experience in neurological and neuromuscular conditions, along with the developmental side. So this is where really things took off, because I started to find my flow. I would see other trainers in the gym, and they really stuck to strength-based exercise. So this would, with their clients, it would be a regular strength lifting program. So for those of you who aren't really too sure what this would look like, it would be putting together specific muscle groups where we would hit either with a dumbbell, with barbells, or just classic body weight movements, which I would still do, but for our specific audience, that really wasn't the case. So I needed to find something new that was different, because doing a static exercise laying down isn't going to accomplish what we needed to. The overall goal when we train is functionality. What we do every day, whether it's in the gym or it's virtual, will directly affect your everyday life. So one of my clients, he was 76 and he was really struggling when he got inside with the groceries or getting up the stairs in his house. So an example of exercises we would do is I would set up a big table and he would I would move him through the correct form of picking a heavy weight up through the specific exercise that it is. And over time, we began to build up endurance, we began to build up strength. And before we knew it, he came in and he said that he wasn't feeling tired at the top of the stairs anymore, or he was able to bring in more groceries at once, because everything that we did was specifically functional to their everyday life. Now, outside of actual fitness itself, there was a lot of other things we did at the YMCA that I kind of just wanted to bring up. I ran a book club with a book called Disability Visibility, and it was a lady and actually a lot of short stories about different people who kind of had experiences in the disability world. And here we kind of talk about the different chapters in the book and the overall message that it had. Another thing we did was we had a disability visibility workshop, or a seminar. So we had the Delaware State Senator come in. We had different people from other organizations who worked with disabilities as well come in. And this was absolutely incredible, because like we're doing right now, I had the ability to share my story. I had the ability to hear other people's stories and to just spread the message of adaptive fitness in the community. Because first, the program was just me training my clients, but then we began to think, how can we spread adaptive fitness and the overall message of diversity into the community? So this is where the book club came about. This is where the disability visibility, or the disability inclusion seminar, came about. And we wanted to do some advertising for the seminar. So we had this video created that I wanted to show you here as well.
It makes you value just everything you have and everything God has given you. I mean, there are people who come in who have been completely able-bodied to unable to walk without a wheelchair. So it makes you really put into perspective what to really value in life, and also just what's important.
They're part of the community. They actually belong. They just want to belong somewhere. They've sat on the sidelines for years, and now they're a part of a community here in the Y.
So it was more about just getting each of our individual clients to exercise. Our overall goal was to spread the message of disability inclusion. So this is that was a lot of kind of what we did outside of the actual just exercise itself at the YMCA. So I did mention I got different specializations when it came to adaptive fitness. So when I was a senior in college, I got one certification after my internship, because here I realized this is what I really want to do. This is where I need to be. But I didn't have too much experience in learning about specific disabilities and exercise. So that's where I took up my first specialization course. And this was the foundation for my knowledge to come, because this was just an online course I took. It was fantastic. It gave me great knowledge. It gave me a great starting place to better help my clients. Throughout my time at the YMCA, I really wanted to expand my knowledge. So right after I graduated, I took another specialization course, and this one was in person. This one was fantastic. Here we learned about not only how to adapt different exercises, but we learned different ways of adapting each exercise, whether it's with a one-on-one client, whether it's in a group setting, and whether our client has a physical or a developmental disability. There was a really cool piece of equipment we use there, where for people in wheelchairs, we obviously can't jump rope. So they created a piece of equipment that would allow somebody to sit in their chair and move like this with their arms next to them with 2 ropes that were weighted. So it gave people, it gives you a way to exercise. It gives you a way to feel included outside of your regular, I guess, parameters of exercise. So when I was looking at adaptive fitness, I wanted to come up with different ideas or different, I guess, things that I saw along the way throughout my time in adaptive fitness. So the first thing that we found is we need to feel accepted. This is step 1 in the process, because if you don't feel accepted, we're not going to start exercising. So we opened our program to everybody. Instead of calling it a disability, we called it a diverse ability, because we really wanted to take the negative connotation away, which was kind of my thing that I started this, because I really didn't like the word disability at the time. Because, I mean, look at the word itself. It starts before the word ability is dis. And I really still don't like the connotation. So we started to redefine as diverse ability rather than disability. Because here with diverse ability, we're not focusing on what you can't do. We're not focusing on an ounce of your limitation. We're focusing on what is possible and what can be done. And just you, because everybody has diverse abilities. It's not, you don't have a disability, just have diverse abilities. Another thing I saw when I started was I was really the only trainer who was comfortable with teaching or instructing people with diverse abilities. And I will never forget, I had a client who had a traumatic brain injury when she was a senior in high school. She was in her 40s when we started working together. This traumatic brain injury put her in a power scooter for the rest of her life, and she has no long-term memory or short-term memory for that matter. She carries around with her what's called a memory crutch. So every day, whatever she does, we wrote down what it was. I always wrote a note for her. I wrote down what we did in the gym, so she can at least look back at it, see a message from me. We'll never forget, because one of the trainers came up to me and said, "Oh, I don't know how you're doing this. She's so mean." And I said, I mean, if you lost your ability to not only walk, but remember, and you were cognizant of this, don't you think you'd be a little angry too? Yeah, right? So it took just a slightly different way of thinking to overcome the obstacles that everybody in my gym was afraid of. We had another girl come in who has autism. When she came into the gym for the first time, you could hear her screaming from outside in the back, because she really didn't like change too much. And I was scared, but I knew that this was my job. This was my thing. So I went up to her and I started talking. We did a consultation a little differently because we had to kind of cool down the situation. And at the end, the conversation was flowing great and she was very excited to start. So all of these different experiences I've had kind of brings together these 4 points. So everybody, we need to feel accepted in our community or the program we're involved in, because this is where we start. If we don't feel accepted, we're most likely not going to start. We all need to be educated, not only the trainer, but obviously the trainee, the people who we're working with as well, to show you what to do, not only in the gym, but on your own at home. We all need to be included. Every session, whether it's virtual or in person, needs to be inclusive. We need to create a welcoming, motivational, and safe environment for every trainee and trainer to participate. And together, we need to redefine the disability community in terms of, I guess, starting with the word, because for me, I really don't like having a focus on disability. Just the word itself kind of starts just a downhill slope, at least where I think, because when you hear disability, the next thing that comes is a list of symptoms that you can't do. And mentally, this is never a good thing. So I joined adaptive fitness. I joined the world of adaptive fitness to not only help myself, but to more importantly, help the world, help people like me before I kind of found this change, especially children like me, because I know what it's like to grow up with a mindset that starts with diverse ability or that starts with disability, and I know where it can lead. So I found that through adaptive fitness, through working with the right people, we can find the right ways to not only start moving again, but to help your mind. Because you might be really stressed out, you might be feeling super tight one day, and we go in, we do the right movement, you still might feel a little tight, but we have the endorphins flowing, you're in the gym, you're out in the community, we're having great conversations, then all of a sudden you start feeling good, you start making new friends. So adaptive fitness is really an all-in-one stop shop to help fix, or to help you work on fixing things that you might feel wrong physically and also emotionally as well. So this has really affected a lot of the things I do. So I really wanted to show you guys, to show everybody that the word disability, that the word hereditary spastic paraplegia, that having a disability is just a word. So as you can see behind me, I have 2 medals over here. This was from running Spartan races. So these races are obstacle races or obstacle courses. The first race I ever ran, don't ask me why I did it. I ran barefoot and a 6-mile run up and down mountains in New York with obstacles. This was the hardest thing I have ever done, because if you look at me, you wouldn't necessarily think I have a disability, because I mean, I can just stand up straight. But when you see me walk, when you see me run, I run a lot on my toes and I walk a lot on my toes like this. It's really hard for me to walk heel toe. So I walk like this. I ran the whole 6 miles, tried to run. A lot of it was walking on the balls of my feet. So even though it's very hard for me, even though it's all very challenging for me, I still try to do it just to show every one of you and all of our children that this is possible. So my newest, I guess, adventure that I've taken on is Muay Thai. So this is boxing, but with kicks, elbows and knees, almost like kickboxing. Whenever I go in here, it's very difficult for me because I know I have hereditary spastic paraplegia. I know my legs are tight. There could be somebody who walks into the Muay Thai gym day 1 and can do a higher kick than me. I've been training for about 1.5 years at this point. And my kicks are still really tight because my hips, everything from the ground, everything from my hips down it's very tight. It's very challenging for me to move. So I picked the hardest possible thing I could do. Because my thought process here is, if I can win, if I can accomplish this, then this can be the precedent to show at least one individual that just because you have a disability, it doesn't mean that it controls you. And it certainly doesn't mean that you need to stay feeling the way you are. I do have another video on my Instagram I'm not going to show this one, but it was kind of my reasoning to start my Spartan race. I'm not going to show it because it's a little, I guess, overwhelming. And the reason I say this is because it really, I guess, upsets me in the Facebook groups when I see how hereditary spastic paraplegia affects us, whether people feel depressed or they don't want to leave their homes. It really makes me upset. So this was my first motivation to getting into my Spartan races. And from there, every time I do a Spartan race or I do some kind of event, they have a poster board you can write. And I said proof that anybody with a disability can accomplish anything. And every time I go, I write number 1, number 2, number 3. It's always the same one, just to show everybody that we can do this. So this is just a picture of me at my first jiu-jitsu tournament, just to show people kind of what I get into. So I do want to go back a little bit. I want to talk about more of the YMCA, what we were doing in Delaware. So when it came to functionality, when it came to the type of exercise we were doing, I had to completely change the way I think about fitness. So for me, instead of thinking about sitting statically in a chair or for the exercise, sitting statically in a chair for the benefit of a specific muscle group didn't feel right in terms of how can I most benefit our community. So with Tim, he was my perfect, I guess, guinea pig. He loved being my guinea pig because he loved to try all the new things that we would come up with. So we found all different types of exercises to do for people in a wheelchair, to either connect pieces of equipment to connect to our wheelchair, to maybe use a piece of equipment that is made for somebody who is able-bodied, but with some specific tweaks, we can change it. Is anybody familiar with with any type of row machine in the gym where you kind of sit on it and you move back and forth? So there's, cool, I'm seeing some hands, so we are familiar. So there's a piece where you move with your butt on when you're sitting on the seat. You can actually take that whole metal piece off. And from there is just the row machine. So at that point, we took the whole sliding piece off, and then from there we had the row. So that made it very easy for us, or for him, to do the exercise he needed to do, because he couldn't really get out of his chair. So by staying in his chair, we were still able to accomplish the same movements. And even as simply as just standing up. Standing up for 30 seconds meant the world to him. I know we're going fast right now. We're going through a lot. Does anybody have any questions as we keep going?
Hi, this might be early, but I'm so excited and thank you. I live in near San Diego, California, and I would really like to find out if there's that adaptive fitness around where I am. And I have HSP, and so I totally don't feel like going out sometimes, but I want to start working out and I'm ready to work out. How can we find out adaptive fitness in our area?
So a couple months ago, I went to a disability expo. So we'll go to this specific event. So luckily I live in Florida, and there was one coming up in Fort Lauderdale that I was able to go to. And there's a foundation that I found out called the Kelly Brush Foundation, which I can send the information to. And they, if they do work in your area, they set up all different types of adaptive fitnesses specifically for the disability that you have in the area. So it really depends, because it's about the organizations putting their information through the Kelly Brush Foundation or Kelly Bush. So I can look into this. I can send it to you if you were interested in that. Another thing I am doing is starting a pilot program for virtual training, which I can't say now. And something I wanted to offer, at least everybody here, was to try it out. So I'm happy you did bring up this question. I was going to say it at the end, but we can do it now. Sometimes the hardest part is just getting out. So even if it's once a week, getting out, because if we're training virtually, it's still in the community with our friends and we can still talk, we can still have a good time. So my thought process was this was the perfect time to kind of share or bring it up. So for those of you who are interested, I can send more information about it after our meeting, but this would be our first one together. So everybody who is interested, you can join for free. Join on the house as a pilot program to see what it's like, to see what it's about. And from there, we can just move forward. So after this is over, I can put a lot of information together and send it to you, Norma, maybe for a big email blast.
So now,
Norma.
Mike, you've got a question? Go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Mel. Thank you for your talk. It's quite interesting. A person with HSP, as I understand it, their body burns a lot of energy without doing anything specific. Do you take any nutrition, or do you recommend any extra nutritional thing? And also, how long after any exercise do you expect to recover from the pain?
So I'm gonna start with the second question because I think that is most important. So if you leave in pain, then we did something completely wrong. We work functionality here. So if you're leaving in pain, if you're leaving sore, we did not do this right. You should not be leaving sore. You should not be, be leaving tired. Like you're gonna, obviously, like we've been exercising, so you'll be feeling it, but it's not gonna be pain. Now, I will say the first couple times when we start, you will definitely feel a little sore, which can last. You might not feel it the first day, but the day after, you might be a little sore after that. But it's nothing too crazy because if you find the right person to work with, they're going to know what to do and they understand the thought process of if you leave in pain, this was not done correctly. We're doing this to build you, to make you better, not to make you uninterested and not wanting to come back. Second part about nutrition. I can give, I guess, a little bit of advice. And what I can say is nutrition is extremely important because we can exercise, but a lot of the times food itself directly correlates to how we feel, both mentally and physically. So if you can find the right regimen of nutrition with exercise, it's fantastic. And starting off, nutrition could simply be just cutting out that extra soda you have, or not going for that cookie. It could be something super simple, but because we have a disability, it can be harder for us, especially before I started exercising. I was overweight and I felt a lot of pain in my back because my body, I have degenerative discs in my spine, so the extra weight on my body didn't help because I'm already tight. It's already challenging for me to move. So the extra, I guess, 20 pounds on my frame was not good. So this is where I started to cut things out. And so the exercise really mixed with nutrition comes perfectly together. I guess I consider this, for me, I like to call it my glorious burden because there are things I have to do, I understand, in order to feel good. I need to eat right and I need to exercise. I'm gonna be honest with you, 6 out of the 7 days, I really don't want to exercise at all. But I understand in my mind that in order for me to feel good, in order for my body to work at its best, I have to. And anything processed won't do anything good for us. And I understand it all tastes good and we want it, but by considering this, and I know glorious burden seems really intense, which I apologize for, but understanding about it this way puts into a mindset of I understand there are things I have to do that even though I don't like it, even though I don't necessarily want to do this, I have to know. That's not saying that you can't ever eat or you can't have anything processed, because I love my desserts. But at the end of the day, it's about changing from the process to something healthy, because we need to be aware of the fact that our bodies need to be performing at their best, and adding anything unbeneficial to your body isn't doing anything good.
Tracy had talked about a personal trainer in her local area that she was able to find through her physical therapist, a workout gym that's associated with a medical facility. That may be something that's beneficial, so get a chance, check out those things that are in your area.
Oh, something I did want to say. When you do begin to look for people in your area, don't be afraid to ask challenging questions. Because when I first went to go exercise with my mom, this guy had no idea what he was doing, and my hips literally ripped in half. So, not literally ripped in half, but I did a movement that I wasn't conditioned to do, which hurt. So don't be afraid to ask those challenging questions, because at the end of the day, you're doing this for you, and you need to understand that somebody might not understand how tightness in your body can manifest. So we need to pair you with the best possible person to make sure that not only they understand, but they do what is right, rather than kind of lying to you and telling you they know what to do. Because I've seen trainers at the YMCA take people with disabilities when I knew I should have done it, and it did not go well, because they want to pretend like they know what they're doing. So asking these questions, asking for somebody who's in adaptive fitness, is just as important as finding the program itself.
And we also have a question from Mary Bridget Schultz. Go ahead, Mary.
I just wanted to say that I'm a member of DASA in St. Louis, but it's everywhere. It's Disabled Athletes Sports Association. And they put me in touch with a personal trainer at the Abilities Gym. And there's also something that I've called Adaptive Adventures, and it's across the country. And they provide the equipment to adapt. It's for veterans, but anybody with a disability can use it. And I've done community rides with them, where they adapt, like for my community ride, it was a bicycle, and they adapt it to individual athletes. And then somebody that's not disabled shadows you. So you get out, and somebody who knows what they're doing can direct you and push you enough, but not too much. So that encourages you, not discourages you. And I personally have found that really beneficial, and that's across the country.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I will put on the SBF website the actual link to Adaptive Adventures in DASA, but I'll put those in the chat. I don't know the link offhand.
Go ahead, Zach.
So we're here today because I really wanted to open up, I guess, the flow of conversation to everybody in our group, to show that there are resources out here for you. I understand that there is some groups on Facebook that are specifically for like stretching and exercising. So please, if anybody has any questions, if anybody needs anything that has to do with exercise, don't hesitate to reach out to me on Facebook through the groups, to tag me in a question on a post. I'm here to help you guys. I mean, at the end of the day, we share a disability, which I guess couldn't bring us any closer than anybody else. So if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help. And if anybody is coming to the conference, I am very excited to see you, because I will be there as well. And I'm very excited to meet everybody in person.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure, please, go ahead.
So I'm Zach's mom, and I just have to say how proud I am of you, Zach, because I know it's not easy for him, and I know life has not been easy. But despite his challenges and his weakness and stiffness in his legs and everything else, from his surgeries to the leg braces to baclofen to everything that we've done, he rises above his pain. And the fact that he did those Spartans, I couldn't believe it. I said, "What are you crazy? What are you doing?" But I was his biggest cheerleader. And even though it took hours and hours and hours, he still did it. And he needed to prove to himself that he doesn't want to let his ability stop him from doing. Obviously, there are certain things he can't do, but he pushes himself and he knows his limitations and he knows when to slow down. And I
I
think
can't believe you said that, because that's where we differ, because you always say that. And I'm telling you that if you believe that there's something you can't do, then you're not going to do it.
okay.
I'm telling you.
And I think that is very important for all of us. There's a lesson there that we have got to maintain a positive attitude. We've got to have this, I can do it. I'm willing to accept a little help, okay? Because that's important too. But having the attitude of knowing that you can do it and that you can get it done and you can make this accomplishment, because it's all about functionality. Now, Mike has one more question. Go ahead, Mike.
It's a very quick question. I just think that the Melissa's set a good example to everybody, being a parent that lets her child do what their child wants to do. And that should be applied to everybody, because there's too much, parents are too busy to toss at their children and not let them play and not let them fall out of trees and not let them fall over and break their bones. Good on you, Melissa, and set an example to lots of other mothers.
Thank you.
That is very good. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for those kind words.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we've all got to learn from each other, is that how are you doing this? Because it's really difficult for me. And I just need a little tidbit. I need a hack. I need to know, how do I get about trying to make my body stronger? How do I keep myself mentally stronger, physically stronger, and have that ability to still be able to do what I need to do, and not worry about what the rest of the world says that I ought to be defined by a disability. We need that diversability. And I love that. That is so good. That is really a wonderful word to keep and have.
Right.
Miss Tracy, you got a comment or a question? Go ahead, dear.
Yeah, hi. Just a quick comment. I wanted to, first of all, Zach, thank you so much for presenting today. I thought you did an amazing job, and I am certainly one that's a huge proponent of making sure that we continue to use it so we don't lose it. But I would just like to say that we live with a condition that so often every neurologist, not every, but a lot of neurologists always come to the table with, there is no hope. And that is the wrong approach. So for any of you on this call who has heard that there is no hope, just mail it in, you have what you have, it's just going to get worse, that's all you have, that is not true. And there is so much that you can gain from doing exactly what Zach is saying. There is so much you can gain from working through your function and seeing improvements. Every incremental gain makes a difference and keeps you more functional. So thank you, Zach, for shining a light on it today, because it's exactly where we should be.
Just because we have a degenerative disability does not mean our mindset has to follow.
Right.
A growth mindset can just as well override that degeneration in our body to help our minds think in a positive way. We are here. There are resources for all of you. We don't need to feel alone in needing to find fitness. I know we have a minute left, so I really just want to say, please, if anybody has any questions in terms of fitness, in terms of mental health, exercise, anything, do not hesitate to reach out. I'm always here to answer questions. And like I said, I'll be sending Norma some information on our virtual program, and I hope to see everybody there.
I know we're talking all about HSP, but I know that ourselves, our family members might be going through some other things. And there's somebody on this, Willie Pignate, who's on here, who was a motivational speaker who just attended a conference yesterday in Pennsylvania, and about very similar to the mindset. He's such a role model for my son, for all of this. Willie, is there anything that you can just share as also being who you are, which is just this incredible, inspiring man who just overcame something life-threatening for him with everybody? Is there something that you would like to share?
No, actually, ditto, Zachery. The mindset is exactly where we need to be. And I just love everything you're creating right here, right now. And you're right in the right place, man. Love you for that. You're right in the right place.
Love you too.